Yu-Gi-Oh! A card game with the most cards ever printed in a TCG. A game that I've played for decades and built a massive collection. Now, I have to start from the ground up. In this series, I will be slowly building a deck that I'll be able to be taking to locals and YCS events to one day become the next King of Games. It's all up to fate as I pull random packs from the wheel and try to build the best deck that I can for victory. Will I win? Find out in Mystery to Mastery.
What is up, everybody? This is O-Artistry and welcome to the last Yu-Gi-Oh! Mystery to Mastery. Oh my goodness, this is it. This is the final episode for Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Mystery to Mastery. You didn't think it'd be over, did you? In all seriousness, for now it is. And we'll get into all of that as we delve further into the video. But first, I want to just say and take this time to massively say thank you to everybody who has been watching this series. It has been, honestly, it's the most fun I've had with Yu-Gi-Oh! In a long time. It has been an absolute blast. Going from the absolute start to where we are now. It's been just this incredible journey of just starting from the ground up, having no cards, apart from Bradmonte. She was kind of like our mascot to start with, and just building a deck from there with Neil's just random lot card. Well, it was a ready to play deck, and I say that very loosely because it only had like Rising Fire. That was the only spell card in there, and that only worked because we had Bradmonte as a fire attribute monster, and that was it. The rest of the there was like a few traps which was just absolutely pointless, and a whole load of psychic monsters, which, to be fair, Mech Knights, it was a very old strategy, and somewhat it somewhat worked right at the beginning. What do I mean by that? Going to our very first event after deck testing a little bit on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, which is the music you can hear in the background, we went to our very first, and that wasn't just at Yu-Gi-Oh! Aberdare, that wasn't even locals, that was our first event. Like a major event coming in, and it was hilarious seeing Con be like, what the heck is this Leaf Place Place, or what does it do? Leaf Place Place, what an absolute legend. That's where he actually came from, and was in our deck for a very long time. To go from that to Draco Tail with Thunder and Branded support in it, and being an actual consistent deck and getting second place in the overall Season 4 tournament, what an absolute journey. There's loads that we can cover, absolutely, and we're going to get straight into that. So let's start off with what I loved about the series, because that's always a good place to start. So, I loved just being very open-minded when we first got into the series, and being like, my initial idea was actually to hopefully pull enough Dragon Rulers, because the boss monster that we had, that I didn't realize at the time, was Diabolosis the Mind Hacker, who was banned. And to go from the initial idea was get as many level 7s as possible, and Dragon Rulers was in that set that we were in. Were we in? I think it was in the Bonanza set. I think that's where we first started. Getting cards like SP Little Knight was amazing. And obviously one of our best cards was Diabal. She was, in fact, pretty much our MVP. Clockwork Knight was a really powerful continuous spell that actually really worked well, making everything machines, giving our monsters 500, lowering theirs by 500, but turning everything machine specific was really an OP strategy. And having the Mech Knights and that unknown what on earth was I playing was a real good start to the maneuver of how the deck would work. I think Fairy Wind was our best trap Allure of Darkness and Raigeki, I think, was our best spells at the time, and we didn't get Harpies until we got the collection, which I have here. So that's how we got our Harpies Feather Duster. So we were slowly getting some good cards, but the issue was we didn't have the consistency. But I didn't mind that, because like I said, one of the things I absolutely loved was just open mind, what on earth can we build when we first start this collection, and getting those random lots and just opening packs, slowly building our deck and getting a little bit more of a strategy. The series really changed in terms of the dynamics, especially when we got Justice Hunters. Absolutely, Justice Hunters was the peak change. Originally I wanted to play Yummy. I wasn't actually particularly interested in Dracotail, surprisingly, considering that's what I went with, and I fell in love with the strategy pretty much immediately reading into it, because I could first finally utilize using the Thunder Monsters, because I was slowly building that collection while we were going at it, and had Thunder Draco Dark for a while, and really wanted to utilize it, but didn't really have a way to until Dracotail really opened up that that opportunity for us. Now, what was insane was, originally it was supposed to be Yummy and a synchro strategy, but obviously I would have had to have pulled the most absolutely insane box to even remotely play it. At best, my initial thought was at best, because we had a whole load of that Luna support, that I would play a Yummy Fairy Tale, Ancient Fairy Dragon kind of like style deck. That was kind of the initial idea. We also had, there was a couple other things. We had quite a bit of Mitsurugi. That was like an interesting strategy I was debating. We had a lot of psychic cards, because again, we started off with a psychic package, and there was a lot more psychic support down the line, so that was interesting. It didn't really work, but yeah, just going from set to set, slowly opening packs, seeing if there was anything useful, spinning the wheel. That was a lot of fun. Just what cards were we going to get? And there was a lot of really good power cards. In the end, though, yeah, cherry picking was pretty much the way the series was going to go. But that initial rush was absolutely amazing, and I loved it. Now, there is obviously always room for improvement. Starting off, an actual consistent deck probably would have been a good idea, but I really wanted to test my limits and what I could actually build with the limited resources that I had. So, because I could have got the, because when I first started the series, I could have got the original Blue Eyes starter deck, not the one that came out with the link and everything, the original, because they did a reprint of that deck. So I could have had Silver Eyes or Azure Eyes even, Silver Dragon and, Maiden and all that type of stuff, and just a very decent dragon deck. And with Dragon Rulers, I did manage to get a few of. I could have gone more potentially down that route, but I wanted to, like I said, test myself. However, if I was to redo the series, I probably would maybe do something a little bit sooner, because obviously I'll actually bring up the win-loss rate, because this is actually really fascinating. It's a really fascinating study, because overall we're around about the 50% mark. What I mean by that is, I'll bring it up all now. So in total, I actually had 57 wins and 42 losses, 2 draws and 2 buys. So that wasn't too bad. Now, across the board of the 57 wins, that was actually really good, and I really loved that deck. But for a long time, we had a lot of losses, and we were slowly pulling those wins as we were getting further and further into the series. Now, I knew initially there was no way we were going to win. If we managed to somehow start cracking up wins with Mech Knights of all decks, if I somehow won that event, that very first event, there ain't no way. But, that would have been an absolute shocker. But it's crazy to think that we started this almost a year ago. That in itself is absolutely strange. I'm actually going to get up the very first video that we did for the series, so I'm just going to work on that. But yeah, to start off with going in there. We had a delayed start because I wanted to start a little bit sooner, but unfortunately, because obviously we couldn't book the venues with the shed, we had a lot of scheduling. That's why in terms of our next season, I aim to try and book the whole year, because that was a massive problem, and it really put a downer, I felt. But we managed to claw them all back, because we would do double a month, so we managed to get a whole lot of those back. But it's funny, 19th of Feb, and this is the day that I'm recording this, is the 19th of January, was the very, very first start of the series. So Mystery to Mastery is finally here, where I spent 1 hour and 31 minutes slowly building a deck. And then from there, if I go to basically when we started, the 26th of February was when I started doing like deck tests and all that type of stuff. But Supreme Darkness was the very first debut of the deck, and that was on the 2nd of March. So our first also Aberdare tournament was on the 9th of March, which was actually really cool because it was a week later. But obviously, ideally, what I used to do, and it's going to probably change from now on, was that we would have like a month off from the seasons, and January would just be a casual, which we managed to get the casual, but then officially start the series in February. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a date in February, which was really annoying, so we missed out on that. Then we managed to get obviously secure then a date in March, and then we missed another date then in April, which was like really then annoying. So yeah, we did go to locals for a bit. We had deck tests and everything, and then I want to see, because even as far as the 30th of March, obviously we just kept going to like Firestorm and everything. We had the ban list. The ban list I don't think affected my deck in any way, but it was still a real shock to even have that. So that ban list was the 7th of April, which is crazy. And we did even manage to do traditional format, because I did get some good traditional format cards, which is actually really good. And that was a lot of fun as well. And yeah, to think, just slowly as the series would progress, I got all my wins, I got all my losses, I tally them all up, and to get second place overall in the series was absolutely incredible. And it's a hard thing to call in terms of the improvement, because I could have, if I wanted to, started off with a much more consistent deck, but then where's the kind of fun in that? But I'll have a think about that for next season. We'll wait and see. Was there anything I didn't like necessarily about the series? I can't say that there was. I guess a lot of bulk, because oh my word, I've got like 5 to 6 deck boxes, 3 binders of hollows, not full, but it was getting there, and actually, like, that's one of the reasons why they will not be a season 2 straight away, is because basically, I've run out of room. Simply put, I've legit run out of room. Obviously, I'm going to be slowly collecting some Yu-Gi-Oh products here and there, but I'm not going to even really be able to use them and utilize them, not until, effectively, the plan is that I plan to move at some point, hopefully in the year, hopefully this year, which is why hopefully potentially next season will be the next start of season 2 of Mystery to Mastery, but that all depends on if I move. So if I can successfully move, that will be 100% guaranteed, but if not, so it really depends. So like, yeah, ideally that would be great, but yeah, I don't have any more room for cards, which is a shock. I never thought I'd get to that point. Like, I'd never run out of cards. A card of a kingdom for my card, and it just turns out that yeah, I've run out of room. So that's why we're going to go back to original decks. I actually archived a whole load of decks, which then made, on the one hand, I freed up some space. On the other hand, my binders are now very much full. Very scary. And obviously I'm going to be looking to do upgrades to all my decks. I'm going to be looking to basically take one package and move it across the decks. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes, because I may or may not again run out of space, which would be very scary and very terrifying. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything from Season 5. But before we get into, everything from Season 4. But before we do, I thought it'd be great to have a look at all the decks. Everything that we ever did, and go from there. So we will be right back. Okay, so before discussing Season 5, here we are. Yu-Gi-Oh! Mystery to Mastery, from the first variation to the 10th variation. What an absolute journey this has been on, and I absolutely loved going through all of this. It's crazy also, the prices. Now this is not accurate in any way, shape or form in terms of the pricing, because obviously, first of all, it's in dollars and it's not in pounds, and second of all, cards like Nibiru was way more expensive than the original, but there we go. We'll look into that. So first of all, let's start off with our $13.15 Yu-Gi-Oh! Mystery to Mastery deck. Wow, this is insane. Here we had a deck with an extra deck that basically didn't really do anything. What was wild though is it had we had 2 copies of Leaf Place. We had one in the side deck and one in the main. But we started off with 2 Mech Knight Blue Skies. He was kind of like our dude for a while in the thumbnails and everything. We also had Red Moon, Orange Sunset, Yellow Star, and Green Horizon. Blue Sky was the best. We didn't have the purple one. We actually got it from we did get one eventually from Bethany, but originally these were only the Mech Knights that we had. Then we had Hugh Lee, the Duel Mechanico. So this was actually an interesting little dude. Because if this card isn't equipped with a equipped card, it can't be destroyed by battle, your opponent takes any of the damage you would have taken instead, and all that type of stuff. So she was actually an interesting little psychic card. But obviously we didn't have emergency teleport. Dimensional Ultra Virus was a cool tuner. Can't be destroyed by battle with a monster with the same type or attribute. You can declare a type and an attribute, and it becomes that type and attribute. So that was actually really cool against the Ryzeal Mitsurugi, because you could mix and match the types and the attributes to protect it. It was also really good against Blue Eyes because it was a light attribute, so it was really good against those types of monsters. And then obviously, yeah, with Mech Knights, you would put them in different columns, special summons, we can get as many beat sticks as we can. Speaking of the beat sticks, hello, Time Thief Winder. He was just a little level 4 with 1800 attack points, the little dude that could. Mental Tuner was a psychic with 2100 defense, and he was also a tuner, which was good. Leaf Place. What a legend! He was the secret MVP of the deck for a good while. He became the actual mascot instead of Brian Bonte, and had a special place in our local community's hearts. Shout out to my boy, Leaf Place. What a guy. We then also had Cash Tiroga. He was a great level 7, 2800 attack points. He was pretty much our strongest monster at that point, but our best monster was Vanity's Fiend. If we could special summon a monster, tributed off summon Vanity's Fiend, this actually helped us win games, because then either player could special summon monsters, and he actually did get us 1 or 2 wins, which was really cool, especially against Memento. Courageous Crimson Chevalier Bradmonte almost took Nathan's Exodia. That was actually crazy. That would have been one heck of a moment, but Nathan played around it. But that would have been insane. It was the one out. And it was wild. Hey, remember when we played Sulfur? How crazy is that? We actually had Peddler monsters, and they weren't terrible. It meant that we could play anything of level 4 and levels up to level 4s and 7s in the scales. And yeah, having Sulfur Code Elegance place one of these was a deck thinning card. It was actually not terrible. Swift Guy actually managed to get 1 or 2 summons, and Behemoth, the King of 100 Battles, also made its appearance in a few duels, becoming one of the best monsters because it would slowly gain extra attack points. Diabellstar was the easiest monster to summon, and our best way of summoning was with Dramatic Snake Eye Chase, placing it in the spell and trap zone, dodging hand traps, and then special summoning it. It could not use its ability, but it was a 2500 beat stick, and again level 7. Chaos Hunter, a surprising good card, because again this helped win one of the YCSs, and you know that your opponent can't banish cards. Pretty good, solid card. Phantasmal Dragon Phantasme was also a nice one that if our opponent link summoned, technically it wasn't a hand trap, but you could summon it and get +1 draws. Not bad. He was also a level 7 and a dark attribute. Engraver of the Mark, ironically, he and What Kinetic Puppeteer were our hand traps, our official hand traps, because these were the only ways that they could use their abilities was via the hand. But yeah, really funny how these dudes worked, and obviously moving cards from zones would help with our Mech Knights, but also Generator Transverser almost managed to pull off that strategy once or twice, but never quite getting it. But that would be a really hilarious win con, swapping our opponent's monsters around. Beware of the White Forest was if you controlled a level 6 higher illusional spellcaster, you could target a card your opponent controls and destroy it. Now, the only one was Diabellstar, so this was a bit of a brick. 1-for-1 was really good because it got us into access to these 2 monsters, but we were mostly using 1-for-1, so we could summon Bradmonte, or we could summon Altro Varus. It was basically a toss-up between those. Allure of Darkness, they were pretty good, but obviously unless they went horribly wrong. Rising Fire, again, only worked with Bradmonte because obviously it revives a fire attribute in your graveyard, which obviously Sophicord Angelia, unless it was discarded, that would not work. Raigeki was our best spell, destroying all monsters our opponent controls. Runic Allure, we were running a quick play spell. We were running 1, so it was really funny having that in our deck. Bottomless was a pretty decent trick card because if our opponent would special summon a monster, we could destroy it and then banish it. Fairy Wind got rid of back row. Solemn Warnings and a Strike was our best track cards and was in the deck for the whole series realistically. Imperium Iron Wall was neither play could banish cards, again a really powerful track card, and Reckless Greed was a hilarious track card that allowed us extra draws. Our extra deck was very terrible. This was our extra deck, and I kid you not, the only monsters that we could legit summon, because this will require a Beast, Fiend, or Illusion, and we only had a Fiend type monster, and that was literally it, so we couldn't even summon Bertha Man. Realistically, the only monsters we could summon was Goblin Crazy Beast, but that was very unlikely. But we had Generator Transverser, Nightmare Phoenix, which pretty much was through our entire deck, as well as Dark the Charger Gloomy. Really good cards, actually. They survived the entire series, and to be fair, Diabellstar almost did, and Leaf Place did for ages. Punk Jam Dragon Drive was a great Psychic Tuner non-tuner, and Time Thief Redo was a great level 4 that we could summon. Our extra deck didn't really, it was just kind of there. It was just a bunch of cards that I thought might be useful, but not particularly if we need it, and then, yeah, our extra deck was terrible. So let's move then on to the second iteration. Now here is where things slightly developed a little bit more and we got a little bit better. So, as you can see, the strategy still had the Mech Knights in it, and we still had Time Thieves, we still had Leaf Place, we still managed to get Cash Chiroga, and everything, so the main deck didn't really change all that much, although one of the cards that was changed was Salamander Cataclyzer. He was a Fiend that you could reveal it, and then and a different Fiend, summon one of them and discard the other. So, pretty decent support, and special summon. Our spells, though, was where things really took to shine. First of all, Rising Fire was immediately taken out, and we got Harpy's Feather Duster in its place, and we also got Mystical Space Typhoon, so we got double the removal. I remember getting MST in a trade at Firestorm. Thank you very much for that. Sales Ban was also a crazy card that all of a sudden got really pricey, and we had it in our deck. what was hilarious was you could declare one card name, and for the rest of the turn, your opponent can activate cards or effects with the same name, and we can use this for the rest of the duel. So, because I wasn't running hand traps, not good ones anyway, I could declare Ash Blossom, and it wouldn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. Crazy, isn't it? But yeah, we also got Sinful Spoils of the White Forest, so we now got a secondary quick play spell, which allowed us that if we controlled a illusion, spellcaster, or fiend, we could summon one of those monsters from our hand, which again, very limited, but we managed to somewhat make it work. But what was most important is look at this extra deck. Actual usable cards, all except for one, Evil Hero Darkest Night, which would require a Fiend monster and a Warrior monster, which actually, technically, because with Polymerization, the only way we could have done that was with Swift Gaia, which I had taken out of my deck at this point, because Engraver of the Mark, I don't think we had any warriors. Oh, technically Courageous Bradmonte. So it was a warrior and a fiend? Yeah, we could technically have summoned it. Oh, there we go. We had a complete extra deck. There we go. Lesticus was an amazing level 7 that we would always constantly summon. Lightstorm Dragon I never really used, but it was a synchro that we could potentially. And then Virtual World QB, I don't think we ever played. Enlightenment Paladin had a little bit of play. I don't think I ever summoned Eclipse Twins. It was just kind of there. Masquerena was a really good Link monster, but again, it was a difficult one to use. Lambda was really good because it was Psychics. And our very best Topologic Zemboros, who was a rare that we managed to get and was the best of basically our links. So yeah, as you can see, this was slowly making a little bit of an adjustment, but not much. It went from $13.50 to $13.67. Now this is where things really started to change. Slowly but surely, the series would gradually pick up. As you can see, the Mech Knight package very much drastically lowered, and we finally got Dotscaper. Dotscaper's introduction was amazing, and he also lasted a long time in the series. He was a very welcomed monster that I pulled as a rare and got very excited when I pulled it, because he was, yeah, just an amazing card for things like 1-for-1 and all that type of thing. But Emergency Teleport was also just as important in the deck. Time Thief Winder actually got cut down. Armageddon Knight would slowly introduce a package that would allow us to send like a dark attribute to the graveyard, like Leaf Place, and many other monsters that we would slowly get and get to adjust. Now, obviously, we still kept quite a lot of the monsters, but one of the best monsters that we also got in terms of beat stick quality was one thanks to Jayden, Gunkin Suship Shari. I can get my teeth in. But yes, as you can see, we managed to get those. I also got Rastaliger from RJ. This was the start of the challenge that we were officially going through. As you can see, Clockwork Knight has made its appearance. That obviously wasn't in the original deck or number 2, but Clockwork Knight made its appearance in this variation. We cut down the Lure of Darkness. We got an upgrade for 1-for-1 in terms of the artwork. We still kept quite a few of the spells and the traps, but Emergency Teleport was very important. And also as a trap monster, Zoma the Dark Spirit was actually really good, and Rivalry was pretty interesting, but only controlling one type of monster did limit ourselves as well. Extra deck pretty much stayed the same, with the only exception to that rule pretty much that we got Abyss Dweller, which was the card that did get hit on the ban list for us, and Rastaliger was then the newest addition as 2 Link 4s. He was basically access code, but on a not so good level. Our extra deck then, or side deck even, managed to have some Minkanko support in here. Doran, the Manfling Kaju, Fable Lori, yeah, there was a few extra psychic cards. Sweet Roommate was pretty interesting, but we never used it, and this is a pretty interesting trick card that we also had, but again, we didn't really use. Armory Core was mostly used for our equipped spell Minkanko Dance, because the equipped monster can't be destroyed by card effects, which was just the only ability that was really needed. Very nice, especially equipped it to our best monster, Vanity's Fiend. And our deck then rose from $13 to $18, which is pretty nice. It got a little bit more monetary value. Now we're introducing Ash Blossom into our deck. Now, Ash Blossom came thanks to me pulling a very nice spell card, which I traded to Nathan. It was our Tachyon spell, or whatever it was, that we managed to get in one pack. It was absolutely crazy. We managed to pull like the chase card. And yeah, I sold that to Nathan, and on top of that, we also got Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, which was really good. So Ash was finally our official hand trap used in the deck. Monsters then didn't really change all that much. Again, just the inclusion of Ash Blossom. Our traps now included Embodiment of Apophis as a secondary trap monster, because both of these were level 4 for Xyz plays, could be used as links, but also just really just extra defenses, that kind of thing. Creature Swap was briefly in our deck, but it didn't really work as well as I was intending. As you can see, Mech Knights have now finally gone down to just Blue Sky as well. We've really cut all of those down. Our extra deck then didn't really make any changes, and our side deck didn't really change that much either, with the exception of Power Sink Stone, and as well as Burning Dragon and Lord of the Heavenly Prison. That being our best, and pretty much from this point stayed in our side deck. He would come in and out from different variations, because Lord of the Heavenly Prison, as you can see, was not in our second or even our third iteration. Oh no, he was in the third iteration. And then that boosted our deck then to $21. So yeah, Burning Dragon, I never really summoned, but he was a really interesting monster. So if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters, this card's in a hand, you can special summon it. And then if this was normal or specialed, you can discard any card and then destroy all spells and traps on the board. So that was actually a really good removal monster, but I just never summoned it. I didn't like the idea of if we had to go first, and I ended up with Burning Dragon, which is why it was always in our side deck. But again, it just didn't quite work. Lord of the Heavenly Prison was summoned a few times, but I didn't really understand its abilities at first. RJ had to really teach me on that one, but that was really good. So now let's move on to the 5th variation, and Beast of Tawal, the Sword Summon. This dude actually really came in clutch for us, and as you can see, the deck has really changed from the 4th iteration onwards, because while it had the kind of start of the change of the strategy, then we managed to get things like a second Armageddon Knight, performance Trick Clown, Plague Spreader Zombie for that typical Edison strategy. But Trick Clown was also really good, sent to the graveyard, you could bring it back, but at the cost of 1,000 life points, but it was a really solid little move to get into our extra deck and just summon a whole bunch of monsters a lot faster. Nibiru. Now this is the wrong Nibiru, because this is obviously what it should be is the alternative artwork, which doesn't exist in this game. But Beast of Tawal was that if you control the monsters, special summon this card, and the first time you're destroyed by opponent's card effect each turn, it was not be destroyed, and then now the player could target equip spells, which was quite interesting. We'd taken out the Mekanko one, but it was actually really good. Now, interestingly enough, the side deck is where everything royally gets our money, because we shoot, literally, I kid you not, from $21 all the way up to $51. That's because this must have been maybe a Bonanza set or something like that, because we managed to get Ghost Reaper of Winter Cherries, Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and Bolchali Fwalos. I also managed to get then another Ash Blossom. At this point, I was only running 2, not 3, because I didn't want to brick on Ashes. Triple Tectus Thrust was really good, Patronus, Goes in Match was solid, and Iron Thunder, another really powerful trap card that I managed to get into my deck. Diabellstar Vengeance was also an absolutely insane monster, and Thunder Dragon Duo was a really powerful one too. Really good side deck cards that saw little play. Diabellstar Vengeance a whole lot more. I managed to summon that a few times. Espagule was a really solid card that we managed to pull, especially for our psychic package and using emergency teleport, but also we've mainly used that to either summon the place and link it off, or just any of our other kind of targets that we had. As you can see, Diabellstar's still in the deck, Chaos Hunter's still in the deck, but Mech Knight was officially taken out and removed. Our main deck, still in terms of the spells and traps, hadn't really changed, except the addition of Infinite Impermanence, and our extra deck really transformed. Zelantis was a really good Link monster. I don't think I really summoned that often, but Black Rose was also a really good synchro monster, really powerful stuff. So yeah, then it was our traditional format, so that gave us access to some of our cards. Fun fact, Glow Bulb almost came to the very first tournament that we went to in Firestorm until I realized that it was actually on the ban list. I just didn't realize, and it was hilarious because it was in my side deck. This went to $56, which, interestingly enough, was actually a little bit more monetary value. Pot of Greed made it into the deck. What does it do? Who the heck knows? But we also managed to get, as you can see, Glow Up Bulb. And for one more tournament, because at this point, Abyss Dweller was banned, it made our appearance one more time, as well as Appaloosa. Again, Appaloosa was another really powerful card, but was banned. Nightmare Unicorn finally makes its appearance. I don't think Nightmare Unicorn was in the previous iteration. Oh yeah, it was. Oh man, I'm just super blind. But there we go. Nightmare Unicorn was in our deck. We got SP Little Knight. Now SP, I can tell you now. Oh yeah, it was actually in our previous. There we go. I really remember in my decks well, guys. But what I can share was we had one wanted Seeker of the Sinful Spoils, which was the best of the cards to get our Diabell Star, and we then managed to get a secondary copy, so we would play 2 copies, and I still had although I put Vengeance in the main deck and taken out the other, but we started to get a little bit of illusion support with Mocha Mocha as one of our best level 1s, with 1/1 being a pretty good solid card, and obviously Darkscaper still being the best. But yeah, we still kept a lot of the traditional strategies, but we added Sinful Spoils, Subdual, and Morian into our deck. Extra deck hadn't really changed much at that point. So now we're going to get into the more nitty-gritty, because we're near the end of all of our decks. This was probably one of the more defining ones, because Pulling on the Wheel Psychic Processor was a fantastic level 3. Alpha the Master of Beasts was an amazing pull, Dino Wrestler was also epic, and Speedroy Terratop for another very classic strategy. All these monsters made it into the deck. 2 Diabell Star the Black Witches, as well as Vengeance, was also really powerful. And Effect Veiler, I think Effect Veiler's first appearance was, yes, in this deck. So again, another really powerful hand trap. Upstart Goblin was an okay spell card. Cross Out Designator was pretty also decent, but as you can see, we have a bit more trap cards in our deck. Evenly Matched was a new introduction thanks to the wheel, as well as Destructive Drama Karma Cannon and Sinful Spoils Sanctification. Now, in terms of the extra deck, there was nothing really that changed, but we did add Millennium Tristuka, as well as Cypherm Zeta and Red Dragon Archfiend, because they were really powerful synchros that we managed to get for some support. But yeah, not a whole lot in terms of the main deck had overly changed, but we got to $48, which is a little bit, $58 even, a tiny bit more. Now we go and rapidly jump up to $85, and this is pretty much the synchro package of our deck. This was where we got a whole load of new synchro and psychic package going for us with Hushed Psychic Minister. We'd then also managed to get other cards like the Serene Psychic Girl, which was the upgrade to Esper Girl. We had included Ghost Sister into the main deck. And we managed to get a few more powerful spell cards like Foolish Burial. Parallel Teleport was used, 2 emergency teleports. The traps slowly whittled down. Teleport Fusion, and we managed to get quite a bit of a psychic package going in terms of our extra deck, but unfortunately it didn't quite work as well as I did. But Cashtier Fenrir, I think, is finally its first main appearance, and I'm just going to double check that. Yes. So Fenrir finally made it into the 8th variant and was the best psychic monster that stayed in the deck pretty much at this point. Now, it's important to note that obviously we still have Leaf Place in this variant, but sadly we get to the 9th variant. So number 9 was Justice Hunters, and finally our deck was all of a sudden skyrocketing to $97.74. That was an absolute crazy jump from, again, 85. So this is when we managed to get one copy of Lucius, one Feimina, two Mulus, Pan, Urgulas. We included Thunder Dragon Dark. We had Hawk. Feimina, actually, I don't think I pulled. I think, no, I didn't pull Feimina. I added Feimina. Dotscape was still in the deck. Diabell Star had been cut from 2 copies to 1, and Vengeance was taken out. We were using Keeper of the Dragon Magic as well as King of the Swamp because they were really good little monsters. Ash was now fully in our deck as 3 copies, and Effect Veiler made it also still in the deck. Raigeki was replaced with Lightning Storm, and Harpy's Feather Duster was still in the deck. Sinful Spoils was cut from down 2 copies to 1. Monster Reborn was still in the deck. Chaos Dragotail and Rahu. We had 3 Chaos and 2 Rahus, which is really good. I think we only started off with 1 Rahu, but we only had them 1. Also, I should point out that we did originally, I think, have 2 or 1. No, it was 1 Bulululu to start with, and then we pulled a second one not long after that. We had 2 Flames, 2 Horns, Solemn Strikes, then replaced Solemn Warnings, evenly matched, Destructive Drama Cannon, and Mel Reflect Slime finally making its appearance because all of a sudden we were given Egyptian God Slime. We also managed to get Super Polymerization finally from the wheel and 2 regular polymerizations to round up all our fusion targets so we could get into Mud Dragon, Predaplan Dragostapala, Garura the Resident Wings of Life, Mysterion the Dragon Crown, Golemel, Philia Regis, 1 Amphalon, we bought a second Amphalon, Egyptian God Slime, Colossus, Guardian Chimera, SP, Phoenix, Gloomy, Lustrous, and Unicorn. So our extra deck was slowly really getting much more into the fusion aspects compared to variation number 8, which was just all practically a synchro package, which interestingly enough 7 had a mix of mostly links but then a little bit of also synchros and seas monsters. Finally, we have one more variation to go through, and that is variation 10, rocking all the way up to $134.44. But actually, before we go into that, I just want to briefly talk about the extra deck here, or side deck, because we had Ultimate Slayer, Gordian Slicer, Matronius, Dark Ruler No More, the Black Goat the Lefts, and Dimensional Barrier, which eventually got hit on the ban list. Even though it wasn't immediately on the ban list, they did an emergency ban list and took it out, which was really stupid because it should have just been on the main ban list, which is what people were expecting it to be on. Ghost Sister was still in the deck at this point, although in the side deck. So finally, we have the deck. This is what we used overall. So this is where the eggs went into one basket, because we then had 3 Lucius, Fraxel, 2 Feimina, double Mululus, 2 Pans, 2 Urgulas, going from 3 Thunder Dragon Ducks to 2 Fallen Albaz, one being the 25th, that we pulled absolutely ages ago, so it was cool to go full circle. Castia Fenrir, the Triple Ashes, the Effect Veiler, but this time 2 Droll and Lockbirds made it into the deck. I cherry picked those right at the end to make our deck much more consistent. We then had triple Kato Dragotales, triple Rahu Dragotales, 2 branded fusions, a Lightning Storm, Harpies, branded Loss, Monster Reborn, Core by Flame, Sting, Horn, Sting was a great addition, Solemn Strike, Infinite Impermanence, and Mel Reflect Slime to make up that deck. A lot more spells, less traps, and a lot more monsters in our deck. Overall, this was a really good deck that I felt really made its mark. We had Albion, Lubalion, Mud Dragon, Garura, Mysterion, Golmel, 2 Amphalons, Egyptian God Slime, Colossus, SP, Nightmare Phoenix, Gloomy, Lustrous, and Access Code. It was sad to see Leaf Place go, and at this point also Diabell finally left. Pretty much Nightmare Phoenix from the beginning, all the way from the beginning, was one of the only cards to ever last the entire season. And then cards like SP, they stayed as soon as we pulled, as well as Monster Reborn. But Nightmare Phoenix was pretty much the lone warrior, going from all the way of the start of this series all the way to the end of this series. Our side deck also had a massive boost in terms of moving like Nibiru out and into the side, but keeping our Foloses. Thrust and Talent was insane. Gordian Slicer was good. Dark Ruler, Regeki, Super Polymerization then moved over into the side deck. Blackout that laughs, Karma Cannon evenly, and Solemn Strike were also really powerful trap cards. So yeah, that was pretty much our deck, and it makes me sad that it's over, because we started off with this very incredibly scrappy deck, and it was just absolutely incredible to start with this and end with one of the top meta decks in the whole series, and you know, Yu-Gi-Oh's current meta. And then on top of that, to end on a really cool strategy of having cards like Colossus and Amphelon, maybe even God Slime, all on one board. So good. And then maybe Albion or Lubellion. It was amazing. Getting into access code or even SP to help win games, super amazing. I love this deck. That doesn't mean this deck's going away. Just means for now, it's taking a break. But you may see it in Season 5. Now, speaking of Season 5, we have a lot of ground to cover. So, Season 5. A whole brand new season. Just like that, when one season ends, another one begins. To recap, RJ managed to win the whole tournament pretty much undefeated until December, genuinely losing a match against Tom in the last duel was pretty insane. To go pretty much just this undefeated streak this entire time and end up with quite a lot of points was pretty crazy. If I quickly just get our pinned messages, I'll be able to grab that in terms of the general. So I'm basically on our Discord page, so I'll bring up all this stuff. You'll be able to see it on the wall, so you don't need to panic. So yeah, starting off, RJ ended up, depending on how you wanted to view the points, whether they were doubled or not, he ended up with 39 or 42, depending on how you really felt about it. I'll leave that to you. I managed to keep both those points in, depending if you wanted to give him the double points or not. But I ended on 21 points, with Jayden just behind me with 20 points. Nathan got 18, and Tom and Bethany tied for 5th place. So those were our top 5 duelists overall. There was quite a lot of us actually overall. There would have been a grand total of 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, about 19 separate duelists, which is actually really good for our locals. Obviously not everybody came to every one of those tournaments, but you know, I'd say on average we get about 10 people, which was really good actually, all things considering our locals. But yeah, we're now going to talk about Season 5. So Season 5 is going to be very different, because to start with, I have access to all my cards again. Hooray! So all our cards are now back with us, and we can pretty much use any deck that we deem fit. Now, to start off with, for Comics and Collectibles, I created a brand spanking new logo using the Charmers, because they're the newest of the animated, and yeah, it came out really well. I really love this. I think it's a really solid design, and I'm really proud of that. But that's not what we're here for. First of all, let's actually look at the tournament bracket. Now, there's something actually that's going to be really utilized. To start with, going through some of the feedback, some people would have actually got a little bit of a spoiler coming into Season 5. For those of you who don't know or didn't do the basically the feedback form, one of the things that I've changed is the point system. Instead of now just coming to the tournament, and if you get below 5th place or lower even, you'd end up with only a 0.5 on your board. That has now changed. Everybody gets 1 point extra, so instead you get 1 point for just coming to the tournament, and if you get less than, like, you know, to 5th place. So in 4th you then get 2 points, in 3rd you get 3 points, in 2nd you get 4 points, and finally in 1st place you get 5 points. So that will change basically how the things, like how some of the point systems will work, because there'll be no longer 0.5s. Everything will be rounded up to odds and even numbers, but not in 0.5s or anything like that. However, and this is important, as you can see here, there's been a little bit of a shake-up. Instead of mystery to mastery, I have moved the most improved. Now this is actually very important. Depending on how we feel on the day, we will, you know, decide who we feel was the most improved on the day. That will be myself, RJ, and if available, Nathan. We will debate who we think was the most improved on the day. And, you know, they will also get not only a pack for prizing, they will also get a point for most improved. That means, for example, let's say Sean manages to clean sweep the entire tournament. Very possible. His Penguins is a very mighty strategy, and we all love Sean. He is one hell of a dude, and yeah, he's great for our community. So Sean, he absolutely thrashes RJ. No ifs, no buts, no coconuts. Absolutely wrecks his ass and beats his blue eyes, no problem. You know, just absolutely dismantles them with his Penguins and becomes 1st place overall. That would make him the most improved. So not only would he in 1st place get 5 points, he would get an additional point for being in the most improved, which would mean that he would start the tournament with 6 points, just as an example. And would also get an extra pack for that. But on top of that, you get entered into a raffle for the most improved. Now this is actually going to be a spoiler for what the prize for the most improved is going to be. Now Nathan very kindly offered us some really powerful prizing in the form of the Blue Eyes and Dark Magician Xyz monsters that you can't actually use in duels, but are really good for your collection. Basically, they were the monsters that if you used the same 3 monsters and they attacked directly for game, you wouldn't just win the duel, you'd win the match. But obviously you can't use those in duels. However, it really inspired me to really do something with most improved. What I've decided to do this time is a binder of, I will try and get as accurate as possible, staple cards. Basically, this binder will be full of some of the best and greatest of staple cards throughout basically Yu-Gi-Oh's history, because the game does age pretty like, I wouldn't say quickly, but yeah, there's going to be quite a few staples in there that people are definitely going to want to get their hands on. So by the end of it, that would be one powerful binder. So yes, if you get into the most improved, which by the way will be 12 people, they will end up getting in there. Well, potentially 12, because somebody might win most improved another time. Let's say Sean, you know, like I said, in the first tournament, absolutely dismantles everybody in that first tournament. Maybe then he comes 2nd or 3rd, you know, in a couple extra ones. But then, yeah, absolutely becomes 1st place once again in another tournament down the line. We may deem him the most improved again, so he may get in there again. But ideally, minimum, there will be 12 winners, 1 for every month, ideally, for the most improved. So that means 12 people will be in the raffle. That will obviously exclude myself, because I'm obviously the TO, so I will not be in there. But who knows, maybe if I trounce RJ, I may throw myself in the most improved and I'll get the extra point or whatever, but I will not put myself in the raffle. Speaking of raffle prizes, that is still actually a thing, so you don't need to worry about that. That you will still get. However, you'll have noticed there's something a little bit different on the bottom. What replaced most improved? The challenge winner? What is that? You'll have to wait and see on Saturday. But let me tell you, all I'll reveal for now is beware the 12. That's the only hint you're gonna get right now from me. But you may hear something from somebody else a little bit later. Now, as you can see, the design overall has changed in terms of the background. I've actually used the charmers again for the background because, again, they're in the animated, and each charmer is represented behind each one in the background, which is really nice, and I like the stained glass effect. Obviously, our first tournament will be on the 24th, which would be really exciting. And as you can see, cards and collectibles. It's supposed to be comics and collectibles, but I prefer cards and collectibles. To me, it just makes more sense. But there we go. So, yes, everything else will pretty much be the same, but the biggest change will be most improved. Now, I know what you're thinking, and I know what you're wondering about. Will there be variants to our tournaments? And the answer is yes. I've actually calculated that we will be able to manage to fit in 4 different types of events in our tournament. So, what are they? Well, let's find out. We're going to start off with good old-fashioned GOAT format. Now, once I'm able to book the whole year, we will be able to get all this advertising and going. But the idea is, if I grab my phone, I managed to get them all listed. So, to officially start tournaments in January is going to be bring whatever you want to bring. Obviously, provided that it's not on the ban list, and that is the exact same for February. However, March will be our very first of the variants. GOAT format returns. That's right, everybody. We're going back in time, right to the beginning, where GOAT format will make its very first return. Then April will return to being back whenever, as well as my birthday in May. However, in June, we will then go a little bit further back, just a little bit more forward in time, to Edison format. Edison was also going to be returning. Then in July and August, those will also be just bring whatevers. Just those little bits there. You may have started to see a pattern by now. But in September, traditional format makes its return. That's right, traditional was one of the most interesting ones because basically it was that as long as something, anything on the forbidden list would move to effectively 1 card. So that can really utilize some interesting strategies going forward. And that was really good for Mystery to Mastery, using, again, Pot of Greed, using cards like Globulb. It'll be interesting to see what we can do, this year, especially when more ban lists come out later on. Then, obviously, as you can tell, October and November will be bring whatevers. December will end Season 5 on Genesis format. That's right. We are doing a timeline where we will start with GOAT format and end with Genesis. Going through the whole time, which will be really interesting. I'm looking forward to Genesis. I picked a deck, and I just need to double check the points. I don't think there's anything on the list, because why on earth would it? But I think it'd have the most fighting chance being in a Genesis style deck. Against Modern, it's not going to work. Spoiler alert to the deck, it immediately dies to Ash Blossom, which is really bad. And you will find out when you get there, but you're going to have to wait till December, which is so many months away, but it's going to fly by, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, starting in January will be the official start of the season. There are no breaks. We are going from January all the way to December. Now, I know some people really liked the idea of tag. Tag would absolutely be amazing. I would love to bring back tag. The issue with tags at the moment is our local numbers. Without the numbers, we're not gonna quite get there. The other thing is people really wanted to be paired with people they'd want to be paired with. However, that brings a whole lot of unfair advantages. So unfortunately for now, tags will not be in Season 5. but at least you have all these other formats that you can prep for and enjoy. There's plenty of time. That's the reason why I've designed these formats as they are. You have plenty of time, and yes, obviously, like I said, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 tournaments where we can bring whatever we want to, provided again that it's not on the ban list, except for obviously traditional, because technically that makes it 9, which is really fascinating. Because yeah, a traditional format, hey, maybe I want to bring Abyss Dweller or Dimensional Barrier back from the Beyond and use it for one time. That's pretty cool. Now, I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. But look forward especially to the challenge winner. You'll find out about that on Saturday. That's really important. It's not something to sneeze at. But again, all I'll say is beware the 12. And you'll find out what that means down the line. Let's see if anybody in the comments section can figure out what that means. I wonder. There's been a few hints here and there in our Discord chat, so maybe in the Discord could figure that out. There has been a little bit of things dotted around, so you may be able to figure it out. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you very much once again for enjoying this series. I had an absolute blast with it. It's, again, the most fun I've had with Yu-Gi-Oh! And one day, there will be a Mystery to Mastery Season 2. But for now, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content like this one. As always, potty on, peeps! Take care, everybody! Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all again very soon. Bye! Well, I was ready to round up the end of Season 4 and MTM, and then a BANLIST drops. I'm literally editing as we're going, and I'm mid-eating Ollie, and then all of a sudden, RJ, good ever catching it, my brother, finds a BANLIST. So we're going to look through it together. We're going to look through each one, and we're just going to dive in. It's weird to have a BANLIST this early, but RJ makes a good point. Burst Protocol is coming up, so that would make sense, but it's still weird because it's like, okay, normally these come later, like March to April time, so it's like weird. I honestly thought our Herald of the Arclight was banned. I think it was limited in the last set. I think that's what I remember, but I honestly thought it was gone. Malice is, yeah, hit again. Barrier Statue of Torrent is the water one, which means I think one of them is still available, he says, unless Torrent was the last. I can't remember. Wind was the first to go, then they did Light and Dark, obviously. Then I think it was water and Earth and Wind. Yeah, Wind was gone. So Earth and maybe Fire. So maybe Water was the last, or maybe Fire still exists. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but I'd have to double check that one. There we go. That's better. Barrier Statue. So we got Barrier Statue of Drought. Oh, Infernus is banned. Stormwinds is banned. And then, okay, and then the water one, Drought, is now being banned. So the only ones available is the Light and the Dark, so the Barrier Statues. Which is absolutely hilarious. Happy's Featherstorm, good, because it was never used in Harpies. It was literally just mostly in Flu. It was used and would just negate monster effects, so good. Get rid of it. Oh, Moolulu is banned. Limited even. Dragotail Moolulu. Interesting. I rarely use Moolulu. I barely use that one in the strategy. You would summon it, and its ability would be that you would use monsters on your hand or field as fusion material. I'm surprised they didn't go for my word, I can't even remember my own deck. The water one. Discarding herself for fusion material instead of using Mululu. That's a weird one. But obviously K9 got hit. Because, yeah, it's a new strategy. Yummy got hit. Again, Justice Hunters, they're going to hit it now. Because a new set's coming. Obviously, Ame no Habaruki no Mitsurugi. Yeah, good for the Mitsurugi strategies. Obviously. And Kato is the biggest hit, I would say, in the limited. Mululu, I had, like, 2 copies of, I think. Kato is worse, but, again, it doesn't matter, because you can just get them back in the deck and use them again. Like, it honestly does nothing. It makes the recursion harder, so you're going to draw them less often, but it doesn't really affect you that much. So yeah, I don't know, like, that's interesting to me. Draw on a semi is interesting because obviously it was at 3, now it's at 2. I think most decks use 2 anyways. I don't see many decks running 3 draws. I could be tripping there, but I'm pretty sure I only run 2 copies in Mystery to Mastery. It's just one of those things, like, because you're using Ash Blossom more than Droll. No offense, you are. It's just, yeah, Drolls are nice to have, but I think Drolls get hit because isn't it in the 5Ds collection? So people have even more access, even though it's been reprinted to High Heaven in other sets like the Bonanza and stuff. I'm pretty sure it is in the Rarity collections. So in Unlimited, Black Dragon and Black and White Dragon, they've been on the semis for a while. Dark Grepher, I didn't really realize he was on the list. I'm pretty sure he was reprinted. Vanquish Soul Rising, fair enough. Stake Your Soul is also Vanquish Soul, so I guess they want that back. Change of Heart as an Unlimited is interesting. And Snatch Steal, I think it's because there's more cards that basically just are unaffected by like it can't be targeted or unaffected by effects, so it makes sense that those would be unlimited, but I still find that really funny. Zodiac Dryden though is probably the one I'm most surprised about being unlimited, because they've been trialing, so I think they're planning to bring Zodiac back, which was cool. Probably because it's old now. I would be curious to see Ryzeal Zodiac and see what that could do, whether that works or not. Yeah, I gotta be honest, there's nothing on here that really jumps out as a shock, to be honest. I was surprised by Mululu, but it's because my brother showed me the list and he didn't even mention his name. So, I don't really. Kato would be the worst one. Like, not Kato, the spell, the monster that's on Kato, because he actually searches. He's the 1800. That'd be the worst one to hit. I knew it wouldn't be Rahu that they were going to hit, because it locks you. Because that's the thing with Kato Dragotail, is that you're not locked into fusion summoning with Kato Dragotail. But again, it just encourages you to go less pure Dragotail and go into more decks, which mine already is. It's Branded Thunder. Like, if I'm looking at this from a Mystery to Mastery perspective, like what I would be doing if I needed to swap this deck, like these cards out, it's 2 copies of the spell for Kato and then just 1 Mululu. So Mululu would be an easy replace. I'd probably throw in Diabell back into the deck. Maybe Leaf Place would be hilarious because it is a dark attribute, so that'd be really funny. As an extra special summon, so why not? But most likely I'd go Diabao and just bring her back, because yeah, she's an easily special summon monster, and is still a dark attribute, and she's a spellcaster, so she fits into the deck more. So I realistically go into that aspect. Ketu, I've got a side deck that I could main 2 cards in instead, and then just look to replace. So I'd probably throw in Talents and Thrust, and just chuck those in instead. Doesn't really bother the deck that much. Yeah. There's nothing here that jumps out and I'm like, oh no, that's so devastating. Because yeah, like I said with Ketu and Mululu, you can still play Dragotail and it doesn't bother you in any way, shape or form. Anyone who tells you anything otherwise is lying, because literally Dragotail's whole strategy is you can re-add cards back with Amphalon back to your hand, or you're shuffling them back into the bottom of the deck. Like, you're putting them on the bottom, you get a +1 draw. It really isn't doing anything that affects you. Now remember, there's also the fusion monster, the new fusion Dragotail monster coming. So yeah, it's getting more support. So literally don't panic. Like, if you're worried about this, oh no, it's affecting my list, it hurts you as a pure Dragotail player, sure, absolutely. But other than that, it's not, it's if you're playing like branded, or like I am with Thunder branded alongside it literally, this does not affect you in any way. It's just the consistency. But you can still search for most of these cards, and then get them back in. So it really, this is actually like pointless, if I'm being honest. It's just you're less likely to have them in your opening hand. That's all. But it won't affect the deck in any way. It doesn't kill the deck. Like, not even a little bit. It will still do phenomenal. Yeah, there's nothing in there. Draw is just, I don't know, whatever. Most people run 2 anyways. And then yeah, the unlimiteds. There's nothing really in the unlimiteds that makes me go, oh my goodness, like, you know, that's insane. Like, you know, if you grabbed, for example, let's go into the ban list, and you all of a sudden had, I don't know, Jaugen the Spiritualist limited, I probably would go, oh my goodness, because it prevents special summoning. So, or Maxi, that would make me gasp like an old grandma. But that's the other thing with these decks, like Genesis format, like, you know what I mean? It's really not that, like, or if, I don't know, Needle, Kriston Hydrophrax, or like Nightmare Goblin. That would shock me if they came off the list. Splash Mage came back out of nowhere. Abyss Dweller returned. Or Bahamut Shark. Those would surprise me. But honestly, or Pot of Greed or Graceful Charity. Honestly, like that would shock me. Red Reboot, I don't know. But there's nothing in the actual ban list that makes me go, oh no. It literally, my reaction to the ban list is, oh no, anyway. And that is crazy, because this doesn't affect any of my other decks. This only affects Mystery to Mastery, and even then, it doesn't kill my deck at all. That is literally, but this ban list, I'm like, oh no, anyways. I'm sure maybe if you're a Yummy player, or a Mitsurugi player, or a Canine player, it probably affects you a little bit, but not a lot. I guess if you're a Malice player, that's probably, I guess. But is people still playing Malice? Did we all move on when Justice Hunters came? I'm guessing we did. I don't know. This is weird. It's a weird ban list. It's a strange ban list. What a time for a ban list. Because yeah, just Blazing Dominion or whatever it is. No, that's not it. I keep thinking it's Domination. It is Dominion, but I don't think that's the next set. It's Burst Protocol is the next set. I'm getting too far ahead of myself. Yeah, there's nothing in here that just makes me go, yeah. There's nothing crazy. Nothing is crazy. I gotta be honest. If you're shocked, why? I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm honestly looking at this ban list and I'm like, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, what a weird way to end this series on a ban list that doesn't affect anyone. I mean, first of all, the series is ended with MTM, like, to even start with. Yeah, just, I don't know. It's weird. I think that's how I'm gonna end this. And what a way to end the series. Yeah, I'll leave the outro. Now take on over. RJ, did you really think that you won season 4? Nah, I let you win season 4. I felt bad for you. That's why when I trounced you in season 3, I created Mystery to Mastery to challenge myself, and you almost lost. With a bunch of cards that, like Leaf Place, they almost tore you apart. Cards, they almost crushed you. It was a fluke that you won season 4, but now I am back with all of my decks. All of them are raring to go. You will not survive season 5. This is when your reign comes to an end. Your winning streak will be nothing that will pale in comparison into my glory. But what was that fool Owen thinking? Why on earth has he decided that Jayden is his hand-picked champion this season? What? Surely not. There's no way. I doubt Jayden could even draw Pot of Greed in traditional format, let alone GOAT format. He'll never figure out what it does. So why did he choose Jayden to be his hand-picked champion? Who knows? I never understand the mysteries of Owen, but what I do know, RJ, is your reign's coming to an end, because I am not alone in this, and you know an army has been amassed. Yes, I have more people on my side than you really think. It's coming to an end, my boy, and soon, real soon, when I see you on Saturday, you'll just find out the true terror of O-Artistry. See you soon, RJ.